All right, let's talk about a strategy from Rich Dad Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki that honestly sounds a little crazy at first. See, while most of us are terrified of a market crash, Kiyosaki is, well, he's actually waiting for one. Get this, he wants to see Bitcoin's price collapse. I mean, that goes against every fiber of our being, right? When prices are plummeting, the natural instinct is to sell, to get out, to run for the hills. But Kiyosaki, he's running towards the fire. So what on earth is he thinking? Let's break down his logic. Okay, so first up, let's just put this into perspective. To really see how different his thinking is, we need to compare his game plan to what pretty much everyone else does when the market goes into a nosedive. And it really all comes down to psychology, doesn't it? For most people, a crash triggers pure fear. We see red on the screen and we hit the sell button to stop the bleeding. It's called panic selling, and it's almost always the worst thing you can do. But Kiyosaki, he looks at that exact same crash and sees something totally different. He sees a fire sale, a massive discount. And he's not just kind of hoping for this, he's been very public about it, saying a crash is definitely coming, and when it does, he's got his cash ready to buy even more. That's the key thing to get here. This isn't just a wild guess, it's a calculated plan. And to really get why he's so confident, we have to dig into his long and complicated history with the financial system. So if you really want to get inside Kiyosaki's head, you have to start with one core idea. He has this deep, deep mistrust of the traditional financial system. It really colors everything he does, and it all comes from how he sees the world. Yeah, this is a huge piece of his whole philosophy. He's not really a stock market guy. Why? Because he sees himself as an entrepreneur. His job is to create assets, build businesses, buy real estate. For him, putting money into someone else's company, well, that's just giving up control. And that's a feeling that's been shaped by years and years of watching how the market really works. Think about it like this. Back in the 60s and 70s, most regular people thought the stock market was basically just gambling. But that all changed in 1978 when the 401k was born. Suddenly, tons of money from everyday people started flooding into stocks. And then, bam, Black Monday 1987. The market dropped over 22% in just one day. But the crash itself isn't the most important part of the story for Kiyosaki. It's what the government did next. So in 1988, the US government created this group with a pretty interesting nickname, the Plunge Protection Team. Now, their official job is to step in and support the market when things go bad. But in Kiyosaki's mind, support is just a nice word for manipulation. He sees it as them propping up a system that, frankly, he thinks should be allowed to fail naturally. And the results of all this intervention? It's pretty wild. Some estimates say that about 20% of the companies on the stock market today are what you'd call zombie companies. These are businesses that should have gone bankrupt ages ago, but they're kept on life support by bailouts and all this support. And this is the fake market that Kiyosaki just doesn't trust. Okay, so that brings up a huge question, right? If the stock market always gets bailed out, why on earth would he think the crypto market is going to have a real crash? This is where his whole theory starts to get really, really interesting. Exactly. I mean, it's the next logical step. If the government saves the stock market, who would want to see the crypto market burn? And more importantly, who has the power to actually make that happen? Well, according to Kiyosaki, the finger points to one very, very powerful group: the world's central banks. Yep, Kiyosaki is convinced that institutions like the Fed aren't looking at crypto as just another asset to be saved. No, they see it as a direct threat, a challenge to their total control over the global financial system. And here's the fundamental conflict he's talking about. You've got Bitcoin, which is decentralized, meaning nobody is in charge. And then you have what the central banks are working on, central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. They're digital too, but they're the complete opposite, totally centralized and controlled by the government. Kiyosaki basically sees this as a showdown between people's money and the government's money. So how could they actually pull this off? Well, the theory goes something like this. Step 1, the central banks launch their own digital currencies. Step 2, they flood the market with these brand new government-backed coins. And step 3, all these new coins start competing for the same money that's flowing into crypto, which could cause a whole lot of instability and maybe even trigger the exact crash Kiyosaki is waiting for. Okay, so all of this brings us right back to the beginning, to the final piece of this puzzle. What exactly is Kiyosaki's plan? Let's get into the actual numbers he's looking at. His first big target price, the one he's waiting for, is $27,000 per Bitcoin. That's the point where he says he's getting ready to start buying. And look, this isn't just him talking. He's actually done this before. Yeah, during a previous crash, he apparently jumped in and bought Bitcoin when it cratered to around 9 grand. So he's not just talking the talk. He really does live by that old saying, buy when there's blood in the streets. So why would anyone take that kind of risk? Well, it's all about the massive potential reward. And this is his endgame. He's on record saying he believes a single Bitcoin could be worth $1 million. Not eventually, but within the next 5 years. Now, that is a jaw-dropping number. But there's actually a much simpler, maybe more grounded way to think about Bitcoin's potential. You hear it all the time, right? Bitcoin is like digital gold. Okay, so let's run with that. Right now, the entire gold market is worth about 15 times more than the entire Bitcoin market. So if Bitcoin ever just matches gold in total value, simple math tells you the price of one coin could be 15 times higher than it is today. You don't even need that huge $1 million prediction for it to be a massive gain. So when you strip everything else away, you're left with 3 completely different ways people are looking at the future of Bitcoin. To a lot of the general public, it still just looks like a Ponzi scheme, right? Money made out of thin air. To the central banks, it's a dangerous rival that threatens their power. But to the true believers, like Kiyosaki, it's nothing less than the future of money itself, a currency that's actually owned by the people. So there you have it, 3 totally different realities. Is it a scam, a threat, or a revolution? After hearing the thinking behind one of the world's most famous investors, the only question left is, which one is it for you? How do you see it?